From the earliest scattered bands navigating unforgiving landscapes, humanity embarked on an improbable journey. For millennia, existence was defined by immediate survival, a nomadic rhythm dictated by nature's caprices. Then, a profound shift occurred, altering our trajectory irreversibly. This documentary seeks to trace the emergence of complex societies, examining the evidence that reveals how disparate groups coalesced, innovated, and built the foundational structures we now call civilization. We will probe the catalysts for these monumental changes, exploring the pivotal moments that transformed transient settlements into enduring empires and laid the groundwork for our interconnected modern world. Roughly 12,000 years ago, a critical transformation, often termed the Neolithic Revolution, began. Archaeological findings from sites like Göbekli Tepe in modern-day Turkey, dated to around 9600 BCE, suggest a complex social organization predating widespread agriculture, challenging earlier theories that farming always came first. However, the systematic cultivation of plants, particularly grains like wheat and barley, along with the domestication of animals, remains a cornerstone of this period. This shift, according to historical consensus, drastically altered human interaction with their environment and with each other, creating the conditions for sedentism and surplus. The ability to produce food consistently led directly to permanent settlements. Jericho, in the Jordan Valley, is one of the oldest known continuously inhabited places, with evidence of a massive stone wall and tower dating back to 8000 BCE. Another significant site is Catalhoyuk in Anatolia, flourishing around 7500 BCE. Investigations by archaeologists reveal a dense, urban-like settlement built without streets, where residents moved across rooftops. These early towns indicate a growing population density, requiring new forms of social organization and resource management, moving beyond simple tribal structures towards more complex communal living arrangements. By the 4th millennium BCE, the alluvial plains between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, a region known as Mesopotamia, witnessed an unprecedented burst of innovation. This area, often referred to as the cradle of civilization, provided fertile land that, when properly irrigated, yielded substantial agricultural surpluses. This economic foundation, as documented by historical and archaeological research, supported a growing population and facilitated the development of specialized labor. From these conditions, the earliest known cities began to emerge, laying the groundwork for complex urban societies and political structures. In southern Mesopotamia, the Sumerians established a network of independent city-states, including Uruk, Ur, and Lagash, by approximately 3500 BCE. Each city, often centered around a ziggurat dedicated to its patron deity, functioned as a political and economic entity. Evidence suggests that these city-states, as documented in cuneiform tablets, engaged in both extensive trade networks and intermittent warfare for resources and dominance. This era represents a crucial stage in political organization, moving beyond tribal leadership to more formalized governance within distinct urban centers, shaping early concepts of statehood. Perhaps the most enduring Sumerian legacy is the invention of writing. Around 3200 BCE, they developed cuneiform, a system of wedge-shaped marks pressed into clay tablets. Initially used for administrative and economic record-keeping, such as tracking grain and livestock, cuneiform evolved to express complex ideas, literature, and laws. The Epic of Gilgamesh, one of the world's oldest surviving literary works, was written in cuneiform. This innovation, according to historians like Yuval Noah Harari, allowed for the systematic storage and transmission of vast amounts of information, fundamentally altering how societies could organize and govern themselves. The independent Sumerian city-states eventually succumbed to a new power. Around 2334 BCE, Sargon of Akkad, a figure whose historical existence is supported by numerous inscriptions and later legends, unified much of Mesopotamia, establishing the world's first empire. The Akkadian Empire's vast administrative apparatus and military might, as attested by archaeological findings and textual analysis, spanned from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean. Its rise demonstrated the potential for large-scale political consolidation and centralized rule, setting a precedent for future imperial ambitions and highlighting the fragility of independent city-states in the face of unified military power. Concurrently with Mesopotamia's development, another monumental civilization arose along the Nile River in northeastern Africa. Ancient Egypt, beginning around 3100 BCE with the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt, owed its sustained prosperity to the predictable annual flooding of the Nile. This inundation deposited fertile silt, making agriculture incredibly productive. Historians like Toby Wilkinson emphasize that the river was not just a source of sustenance but also a primary highway, facilitating trade, communication, and the political integration of a vast kingdom over 3 millennia. The Nile's rhythm dictated life, culture, and governance. At the apex of Egyptian society stood the pharaoh, considered a divine king, an embodiment of the gods themselves. This belief system, evident in monumental architecture, religious texts, and burial practices, provided immense stability and legitimacy to the ruling dynasty. Pharaohs commissioned the construction of colossal pyramids and temples, testaments to their power and their perceived role in maintaining cosmic order. The meticulous preservation of the deceased, as seen in mummification, reflected a profound belief in the afterlife and the pharaoh's eternal journey, underscoring a culture deeply entwined with religious authority and the divine. Like the Mesopotamians, the Egyptians developed a sophisticated writing system, hieroglyphs, meaning sacred carvings. Dating back to around 3200 BCE, hieroglyphs combined pictographic, syllabic, and alphabetic elements. Initially used for religious texts and monumental inscriptions, their complexity later led to the development of hieratic and demotic scripts for administrative and everyday use on papyrus. The Rosetta Stone, discovered in 1799, proved crucial in deciphering these ancient writings, unlocking centuries of Egyptian history and culture for modern scholars, a testament to the enduring power of written language to preserve knowledge across millennia. Further east, by 2500 BCE, the Indus Valley civilization flourished in what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. Known for its sophisticated urban planning, cities like Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa featured grid layouts, elaborate drainage systems, and standardized brick sizes. Archaeological excavations reveal a remarkable level of communal organization, with evidence of advanced engineering and public works, including large public baths. Yet, unlike Egypt or Mesopotamia, researchers like Jonathan Mark Kenoyer note a lack of monumental palaces or clear evidence of a centralized monarch or priesthood. The script remains undeciphered, leaving many aspects of its political and social structure a subject of ongoing debate. In East Asia, early Chinese civilization developed along the Yellow River. The Xia dynasty, though debated by some as purely legendary, is traditionally cited as China's first dynasty, emerging around 2070 BCE. However, the Shang dynasty, from approximately 1600 to 1046 BCE, provides the earliest definitive archaeological evidence, particularly from sites like Anyang. Shang society was characterized by bronze metallurgy, oracle bone script, an early form of Chinese writing, and a highly stratified social structure with a powerful monarchy. The inscriptions on oracle bones, used for divination, serve as invaluable primary sources for understanding Shang religious beliefs and administrative practices. The succeeding Zhou dynasty, 1046 to 256 BCE, introduced the concept of the mandate of heaven. This political philosophy asserted that rulers governed by divine right, but only so long as they ruled justly and wisely. If a ruler became tyrannical or incompetent, heaven would withdraw its mandate, legitimizing rebellion and the rise of a new dynasty. This concept, as articulated in Zhou texts, profoundly influenced Chinese political thought for millennia, providing a cyclical framework for dynastic change and justifying both the authority of the emperor and the right of the populace to revolt against oppressive rule. In the Aegean world, a unique form of civilization emerged by the 8th century BCE, the Greek city-state, or polis. Unlike the vast empires of the Near East, these independent, self-governing communities like Athens, Sparta, and Corinth developed distinct political systems, ranging from oligarchies to early forms of democracy. Historians emphasize that this decentralized structure fostered intense rivalries but also profound intellectual and cultural innovation. Citizens participated directly in governance, a revolutionary concept that, while limited to freeborn men, laid foundational principles for later democratic thought, as evidenced in Athenian political treatises and public decrees. The stark contrast between Athens and Sparta illustrates the diversity within Greek civilization. Athens, particularly during the 5th century BCE, developed a direct democracy where male citizens debated and voted on legislation in the assembly. Spartan society, conversely, was a militaristic oligarchy, entirely devoted to producing formidable soldiers. Their austere lifestyle, as described by Plutarch, prioritized discipline and loyalty to the state above all else. This duality, driven by differing values in geopolitical strategies, fueled both cultural achievements and frequent conflicts, most notably the Peloponnesian War, which dramatically reshaped the Greek world. While Greek city-states debated, a monumental empire arose to the east, the Achaemenid Persian Empire. Founded by Cyrus the Great in the 6th century BCE, it became the largest empire the world had yet seen, stretching from India to Egypt and parts of Europe. Historians credit its longevity to an effective administrative system, including satrapies, provinces, governed by appointed officials, and the royal road, facilitating rapid communication and trade. Persian tolerance for diverse cultures and religions, as recorded in the Cyrus Cylinder, was also a hallmark of its rule, contrasting sharply with the destructive conquests of earlier empires. The Persian Empire eventually faced an unprecedented challenge from the West. In the late 4th century BCE, Alexander the Great of Macedon launched a series of campaigns that dismantled the Achaemenid Empire and spread Greek culture, Hellenism, across vast territories. His lightning-fast conquests, culminating in an empire stretching to India, fundamentally reshaped the geopolitical landscape. While his empire fragmented after his death in 323 BCE, Alexander's legacy, according to scholars like Robin Lane Fox, lies in the subsequent Hellenistic Age, a period of widespread cultural diffusion, intellectual exchange, and the establishment of new cities that became centers of learning. While Hellenistic kingdoms flourished, a new power was ascendant in the Italian peninsula. Rome, traditionally founded in 753 BCE, evolved from a small city-state into a republic by 509 BCE. Its political structure, characterized by a complex system of elected magistrates, a powerful senate, and assemblies, aimed to prevent absolute rule. The Roman Republic's genius, as argued by Polybius, lay in its mixed constitution, balancing monarchical, aristocratic, and democratic elements. Its military prowess, legal innovations, and pragmatic approach to governance allowed it to gradually dominate Italy and eventually the Mediterranean world. Roman civilization distinguished itself through unparalleled engineering and architectural achievements. Their vast network of roads, spanning hundreds of thousands of miles, facilitated rapid troop movement and trade, knitting the empire together. Aqueducts, like the Pont du Gard, supplied cities with fresh water, demonstrating sophisticated hydraulic engineering. The Pantheon, with its massive concrete dome, remains a marvel of structural design. These innovations, as documented by sources like Vitruvius, were not merely aesthetic but crucial for the functionality, expansion, and administration of a vast and populous empire, reflecting a pragmatic mastery of materials and mechanics. The transition from republic to empire, cemented by Augustus in 27 BCE, marked a new era of expansion and consolidation. At its peak, the Roman Empire encompassed a territory stretching from Britain to Mesopotamia. The Pax Romana, a period of relative peace and stability lasting over 2 centuries, fostered economic prosperity, cultural exchange, and widespread urbanization. Latin became the lingua franca of governance and law, while Roman legal principles laid the groundwork for many modern legal systems. The sheer scale and enduring influence of Roman rule, according to historians, represent a high watermark in ancient imperial power and cultural assimilation. Despite its might, the Western Roman Empire ultimately succumbed to a combination of internal strife, economic decline, and external pressures. Historians debate the primary causes, citing factors such as political instability, rampant corruption, overexpansion, and increasing pressure from barbarian migrations and invasions. In 410 CE, the Visigoths sacked Rome, a symbolic blow, and by 476 CE, the last Western Roman emperor was deposed. While the Eastern Roman Empire persisted, the collapse in the West ushered in a fragmented political landscape across Europe, marking the traditional end of the ancient world and the beginning of the Middle Ages. While the West fell, the Eastern Roman Empire, centered in Constantinople, continued as the Byzantine Empire for another 1,000 years. Its strategic location, strong imperial administration, and distinct blend of Roman law, Greek culture, and Eastern Orthodox Christianity allowed it to thrive. Under emperors like Justinian I in the 6th century, the Byzantines codified Roman law, Corpus Juris Civilis, and produced architectural masterpieces like the Hagia Sophia. Scholars argue that Byzantium served as a crucial buffer between Europe and the East, preserving classical knowledge and influencing artistic and legal traditions throughout Eastern Europe and the Middle East. In the 7th century CE, a new monotheistic religion, Islam, emerged on the Arabian Peninsula. Propagated by the Prophet Muhammad, Islam rapidly unified the fragmented Arab tribes. Within a century of Muhammad's death in 632 CE, the Rashidun and Umayyad caliphates expanded dramatically, conquering vast territories from the Iberian Peninsula to Central Asia. This expansion, according to historical accounts, was driven by both religious fervor and strategic military prowess. The establishment of this vast new empire facilitated immense cultural, scientific, and economic exchange, laying the foundation for a new global power bloc and significantly reshaping the political map. Under the Abbasid Caliphate, particularly from the 8th to 13th centuries, the Islamic world entered a golden age of unparalleled intellectual and scientific achievement. Centers like Baghdad, with its House of Wisdom, became vibrant hubs for scholarship, where classical Greek, Roman, and Persian texts were translated, studied, and expanded upon. Scholars made groundbreaking advancements in mathematics, introducing Arabic numerals and algebra, astronomy, medicine, and philosophy. This period, as historian Jim Al-Khalili notes, saw a true synthesis of knowledge, with contributions that profoundly influenced the Renaissance and the development of modern science in Europe. Following the collapse of the Western Roman Empire, Europe entered a period often termed the Middle Ages, c. 500–1500 CE. Characterized by political decentralization and frequent warfare, the dominant social and economic system became feudalism. This hierarchical structure, according to medieval historians, revolved around land ownership and loyalty. Kings granted land to nobles in exchange for military service, who in turn granted land to vassals, while serfs were tied to the land. The Church provided a unifying cultural and spiritual authority amidst political fragmentation, influencing everything from daily life to intellectual pursuits and political legitimacy. From the late 11th century, a series of religious wars known as the Crusades saw European Christian powers attempt to reclaim the Holy Land from Muslim rule. While largely failing in their primary objective, the Crusades, as scholars like Thomas F. Madden argue, had profound unintended consequences. They stimulated trade between East and West, exposed Europeans to advanced Islamic and Byzantine knowledge in science, medicine, and philosophy, and contributed to the rise of Italian city-states. This era represents a period of intense cultural collision and exchange, directly influencing the intellectual awakening that would later sweep through Europe. Far removed from the Old World, advanced civilizations flourished in Mesoamerica. The Maya civilization, reaching its peak between 250 and 900 CE, developed sophisticated writing systems, intricate calendars, and monumental architecture like the pyramids of Tikal and Chichen Itza. Their understanding of astronomy and mathematics was remarkable, including the concept of zero. Despite forming complex city-states with vast trade networks, Mayan civilization experienced a mysterious decline in the Classic period, the causes of which are still debated among archaeologists, with theories ranging from environmental degradation to prolonged warfare. In the Valley of Mexico, the Aztec Empire rose to prominence in the 14th and 15th centuries. Its capital, Tenochtitlan, built on an island in Lake Texcoco, was a marvel of urban planning, boasting causeways, canals, and floating gardens, chinampas, that fed its large population. The Aztecs forged a powerful empire through military conquest and a tribute system, as documented in codices. Their rich religious practices, often involving human sacrifice, were deeply intertwined with their worldview and agricultural cycles. This sophisticated civilization, at its zenith, dominated much of Mesoamerica, controlling vast territories through a complex political and economic network. In South America, along the Andean mountain range, the Inca Empire emerged as the largest empire in pre-Columbian America. Flourishing in the 15th century, it was known for its exceptional administrative organization, vast road network spanning over 25,000 miles, and impressive stone masonry, evident at sites like Machu Picchu. Lacking a written language, the Inca used quipu, knotted cords, for record-keeping. Their sophisticated agricultural techniques, including terracing, allowed cultivation in challenging mountain terrains. Historians highlight the Incas' ability to integrate diverse ethnic groups and manage resources across an enormous, geographically complex empire without currency or markets. The late 15th and 16th centuries witnessed an era of unprecedented global exploration, fundamentally altering the course of human history. European powers, driven by economic motives, technological advancements in shipbuilding and navigation, and missionary zeal, embarked on voyages across the Atlantic, Indian, and Pacific Oceans. Christopher Columbus's 1492 voyage to the Americas, Vasco da Gama's sea route to India, and Ferdinand Magellan's circumnavigation of the globe connected previously isolated continents. This era, termed the Age of Discovery, initiated a period of intense global exchange and profound geopolitical shifts, as new trade routes were established and empires expanded. Contemporaneously with the Age of Exploration, Europe experienced the Renaissance, a rebirth of classical art, literature, and philosophy. Beginning in 14th century Italy and spreading across the continent, this movement marked a shift from the medieval focus on theology to a renewed emphasis on humanism, individualism, and empirical observation. Artists like Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo produced masterpieces, while thinkers like Machiavelli re-evaluated political theory. The Renaissance, according to historians like Jacob Burckhardt, laid the intellectual groundwork for later scientific advancements and a more secular worldview, transitioning Europe from medievalism to modernity. The 16th century also saw the profound religious upheaval of the Protestant Reformation. Initiated by Martin Luther's challenge to the Catholic Church in 1517, the Reformation questioned papal authority and emphasized individual faith. The invention of the printing press by Gutenberg played a crucial role, allowing Luther's ideas and vernacular Bibles to disseminate rapidly. This movement, historians note, shattered the religious unity of Western Europe, leading to centuries of religious wars but also fostering intellectual inquiry and contributing to the rise of modern nation-states. It profoundly altered the relationship between religious and political power. Building on the Renaissance's emphasis on observation, the 17th century witnessed the scientific revolution. Figures like Nicholas Copernicus, Galileo Galilei, and Isaac Newton fundamentally transformed humanity's understanding of the cosmos and the natural world. Copernicus proposed a heliocentric model, challenging millennia of geocentric belief. Galileo's telescopic observations provided empirical evidence, leading to his conflict with the Church. Newton's laws of motion and universal gravitation provided a mechanistic explanation for the universe. This shift, as historians of science observe, established the scientific method as a rigorous approach to knowledge, laying the groundwork for modern science and technology. The intellectual fervor of the scientific revolution spilled into the 18th century, giving rise to the Enlightenment. Philosophers like John Locke, Jean-Jacques Rousseau, and Montesquieu advocated for reason, individual liberty, and human rights, challenging absolute monarchies and traditional religious authority. Concepts such as the social contract, separation of powers, and popular sovereignty emerged, profoundly influencing political thought. These ideas, disseminated through salons and printed works, fueled revolutionary movements in the Americas and France, arguing for governments based on the consent of the governed and the protection of natural rights, directly impacting the structure of modern states. The Enlightenment's ideals found their first major practical application in the American Revolution, 1775 to 1783. British North American colonies, asserting their right to self-governance against perceived tyranny, declared independence and fought for a new nation founded on republican principles. The Declaration of Independence, penned by Thomas Jefferson, articulated unalienable rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. The successful establishment of the United States, as a republic with a written constitution and a system of checks and balances, provided a powerful example for other peoples seeking freedom and self-determination, proving Enlightenment theories could be realized. Inspired by the American example, the French Revolution, 1789 to 1799, sought to overthrow an absolute monarchy and a rigid social hierarchy. Fueled by economic hardship, social inequality, and Enlightenment ideas, the revolution led to the abolition of feudalism, the declaration of the rights of man and of the citizen, and the eventual execution of King Louis XVI. While its initial phases promised liberty and equality, the revolution's radicalization into the reign of terror and subsequent instability highlight the complexities and inherent dangers of rapid societal transformation, as detailed by historians like Simon Schama, shaping political discourse for centuries. The tumultuous aftermath of the French Revolution saw the rise of Napoleon Bonaparte, who, through a series of military campaigns, forged a vast French empire across Europe. The Napoleonic Wars, 1803 to 1815, fundamentally reshaped the continent, spreading French administrative reforms, legal codes, the Napoleonic Code, and revolutionary ideals, even as they sparked nationalist resistance. Though Napoleon's empire ultimately collapsed, his actions dissolved the Holy Roman Empire and profoundly influenced the map of Europe. His military and political innovations, as explored by historians, left an indelible mark on warfare and statecraft, contributing to the rise of modern nationalism. Beginning in Great Britain in the late 18th century, the Industrial Revolution irrevocably transformed human civilization. Innovations such as James Watt's improved steam engine, the mechanization of textile production, and new methods of iron-making led to unprecedented economic growth and urbanization. Factory systems replaced cottage industries, drawing vast populations from rural areas to burgeoning industrial cities. This period, as historian E. P. Thompson meticulously documented, marked a radical departure from agrarian economies to manufacturing-based ones, fundamentally reshaping labor, society, and the environment, creating entirely new social classes and economic disparities. The Industrial Revolution brought not only economic prosperity but also profound social upheaval. Rapid urbanization led to overcrowded cities, poor sanitation, and deplorable working conditions in factories and mines, particularly for women and children. This era also saw the rise of new ideologies, including socialism and communism, advocated by thinkers like Karl Marx, who critiqued the inherent inequalities of capitalism. Labor movements emerged, demanding better wages, shorter hours, and safer environments. These social transformations, as countless historical accounts confirm, ignited debates about class, justice, and economic systems that continue to resonate in the modern world. The industrialization of European powers fueled a new wave of imperialism in the 19th century. Driven by the demand for raw materials, new markets, and strategic advantages, European nations aggressively colonized vast swaths of Africa, Asia, and the Pacific. This scramble for Africa and the expansion into Asia led to the imposition of European political, economic, and cultural systems on indigenous populations, often through violent subjugation. While proponents argued for a civilizing mission, the historical record, as scholars like Edward Said have shown, largely reveals exploitation, resource extraction, and the disruption of local societies, leaving a complex legacy that still affects global geopolitics. The early 20th century shattered the fragile peace of the imperial era. A complex web of alliances, rising nationalism, imperial rivalries, and an arms race culminated in World War I, 1914 to 1918. This conflict, the first truly global total war, involved industrialized nations, employing unprecedented technological warfare, machine guns, poison gas, tanks, resulting in millions of casualties. The war fundamentally reshaped global power dynamics, leading to the collapse of empires, Ottoman, Austro-Hungarian, Russian, and sowing the seeds for future conflicts. Its brutal scale and the subsequent Treaty of Versailles, as many historians argue, set the stage for World War II. The 1920s, known as the Roaring Twenties in the West, saw a boom in economic prosperity, cultural innovation, and social liberalization following the Great War. However, this era of apparent optimism ended abruptly with the Wall Street crash of 1929, triggering the Great Depression. This severe global economic downturn, characterized by widespread unemployment, poverty, and industrial decline, profoundly impacted societies worldwide. It exposed systemic flaws in capitalist economies and fueled political extremism, contributing to the rise of authoritarian regimes in Europe and ultimately demonstrating the interconnectedness of global financial systems. Less than 2 decades after World War I, the world plunged into an even more devastating conflict, World War II, 1939 to 1945. Driven by aggressive expansionist ideologies of Nazi Germany, Fascist Italy, and Imperial Japan, and exacerbated by the failures of international diplomacy, this war eclipsed its predecessor in scale and brutality. It saw genocide on an industrial scale, the first use of atomic weapons, and unprecedented civilian casualties. Historians estimate upwards of 70 to 85 million deaths, making it the deadliest conflict in human history. The war fundamentally reshaped the global order, leading to the decline of European empires and the rise of 2 new superpowers. The immediate aftermath of World War II saw the emergence of a new geopolitical reality, the Cold War, 1947 to 1991. The United States and its Western allies faced off against the Soviet Union and its communist bloc in an ideological and geopolitical rivalry, without direct large-scale military conflict between the 2 superpowers. This era was characterized by proxy wars, an intense nuclear arms race, the division of Germany, and a global struggle for influence. Events like the Cuban Missile Crisis brought the world to the brink of nuclear catastrophe, highlighting the constant tension of a bipolar world defined by the threat of mutually assured destruction. Parallel to the Cold War, a wave of decolonization swept across Asia and Africa from the mid-20th century. Former European colonies gained independence, giving rise to numerous new nations. This process was often marked by complex struggles, sometimes peaceful, sometimes violent, as newly independent states grappled with establishing stable governments, fostering national identity, and overcoming the legacies of colonial exploitation and imposed borders. Leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, Nelson Mandela, and Kwame Nkrumah spearheaded these movements. The creation of these new sovereign states fundamentally altered the global political landscape and shifted the balance of power, marking the end of traditional imperialism. The Cold War also fueled an intense space race between the US and the USSR. Beginning with Sputnik in 1957, this competition led to astonishing technological advancements, including manned spaceflight, lunar landings, and sophisticated satellite technology. Beyond its political implications, the space race spurred innovation in computing, materials science, and engineering, demonstrating humanity's capacity for unprecedented scientific and technological achievement. This era, according to space historians, represented a new frontier for exploration and a testament to the power of concentrated national effort and scientific collaboration, even amidst geopolitical rivalry. The late 20th and early 21st centuries have been defined by accelerating globalization. Driven by advancements in transportation, communication technologies, and international trade agreements, the world has become increasingly interconnected. Goods, capital, information, and people now move across borders with unprecedented ease. While globalization has fostered economic growth and cultural exchange, it has also raised concerns about economic inequality, the erosion of local cultures, and the spread of global challenges like pandemics and financial crises. This era, as many economists observe, has created a complex web of interdependence among nations, fundamentally altering the nature of national sovereignty. The advent of the personal computer, the internet, and mobile technology since the 1980s has ignited a digital revolution, transforming virtually every aspect of human life. The information age, characterized by the rapid creation, dissemination, and consumption of digital data, has democratized access to information and enabled instant global communication. Social media platforms, while connecting billions, have also presented new challenges regarding privacy, misinformation, and societal polarization. This ongoing revolution, as technosociologists analyze, continues to reshape economies, politics, and social interactions at an accelerating pace, redefining what it means to be a connected society. As civilization reached its modern zenith, it confronted new, existential challenges, chief among them climate change. The Industrial Revolution's reliance on fossil fuels has led to unprecedented levels of greenhouse gas emissions, causing global warming, extreme weather events, and rising sea levels. Scientific consensus, as documented by the IPCC, overwhelmingly confirms human activity as the primary driver. Addressing this crisis requires global cooperation on an unprecedented scale, balancing economic development with environmental sustainability, and presenting a complex moral and practical dilemma for contemporary societies as they grapple with the long-term consequences of past progress. Looking forward, the trajectory of human civilization remains uncertain. We stand at a crossroads, equipped with unimaginable technological power but facing pressing global issues, climate change, resource depletion, geopolitical tensions, and the ethical implications of artificial intelligence. The lessons of history, revealing cycles of innovation, conflict, and adaptation, offer both warnings and inspirations. The question persists: can humanity leverage its collective knowledge and interconnectedness to navigate these complex challenges, fostering sustainable progress and equitable societies, or will the very forces that propelled our ascent ultimately contribute to a new era of decline? The answer lies in the choices we make today.